How's it going, everybody? My name is Joey Sullivan, and I'm making a video today for you guys to teach you a little bit about intersectionality. Now, there's a bunch of readings and videos and PowerPoints that our teacher has given us, but it falls in my hands today to give you guys a mini lesson. So the prompt for this particular lesson is, how do I believe using an intersectional approach can address disparity in both science and technology? So the first reference we're going to look at is the video posted in the VoiceThread module titled The Urge of Intersectionality, and this is by Kimberly Crenshaw. Okay, and so she begins the video asking people to raise their hand if they have heard names of black people who have been killed by the police in the past 2 years. And she said names like Rashard Brooks, who was 27, and Daniel Prude, who was 41, George Floyd, who was 46, even, Stephen Cook, who is 22. Now, a lot of people raised their hands for those because there was a frame around the argument, which was police violence against black people. Now, she went on to list a few other names, such as Ara Roser and Atiana Jefferson and Brenona Taylor. And people didn't know these names as much as they knew the names of the black men. And so the issue of police violence against black people is framed around this idea that it's police violence against black men. Now, why aren't the names of these women being heard? Why aren't the names of all these women who are being brutally attacked by the police being heard? It's because the reporters don't lead with them, politicians aren't encouraged to speak about them, and the names slip through our minds because there's no frame for us to put them in. Now, how can we solve this problem of intersectionality? Intersectionality is the fact that we have to deal with so many social injustice issues like racism and sexism that constantly overlap each other to give us all this injustice that we have in our world today. Now, the video continues to go on to give an anecdote story about a girl named Emma. Now, Emma wanted to work in a factory like this, a car manufacturing factory, and she was denied employment because she was both black and a woman. And this leads to incredible social injustice. Now, is there race discrimination in the workforce? Yes, and in this example, factory workers tend to hire black men, more black laborers, and if they do hire women, they usually hire white women to serve as secretaries or accountants or office staff such as that. Rarely do you ever see a black woman together in this combination working in a factory. That is the social injustice behind the whole thing. All right, so the video in the module titled The Urgency of Intersectionality by Kimberly Crenshaw. It was on YouTube at the end of the module, specifically for this voice thread, actually. She talks about or uses the analogy of intersectionality as an intersection, okay? And so in the video, she draws it out. Here's the road and everything. And then on this, where she wrote sexism, and on this, she wrote racism. And she goes on to describe how the roads at the intersection is a way to keep the workforce structured by race and gender. And then the traffic within the roads is kind of the hiring policies and the practices of the company and whatnot. And so she talks about this woman named Emma, who was both black and a female, who was not able to get hired by this company because she was in the Four Corners. The company said that they hired black people and women, but since she was black and a woman, they were able to put her in the middle, getting hit by all the traffic of intersectionality. So taking in the example of the intersection, what if an ambulance, was to come in to her rescue? The ambulance, being the courts, would say that she can only get helped if she was harmed in in one of the lanes, For example, if she was getting denied job because of her gender, or if she was getting denied her job because of her race. But since she was not, the ambulance couldn't help her because she basically was just stuck in the corner and got hit by the traffic. All right, so what that video in the module was basically telling us is that we have to use an intersectional approach when we look at things such as workforce racism. As the example that she used, so she ended up, Emma, filed for court with a judge trying to file for racial discrimination in the workplace, and the judge denied her. Why did he do that? Because he saw that the factory employed black people and that they employed women. He didn't look at the intersectional approach and see that they didn't hire a lot of black women. So we as people need to think about this approach in our workforce. If we were to start a company or in our general day-to-day life, we need to see how we integrate as human beings, because everybody has potential and everybody can do great things, and we need the experience of well-rounded people from different backgrounds and different varieties so that we can have a better society and grow. All right, now we have to ask ourselves just exactly how? How what? How can we put a frame around intersectionality? Well, according to the Intersectionality, Mapping the Movements of a Theory by Devin W. Corobato, he says that understanding intersectionality as a work in progress suggests that it makes little sense to frame the concept as a contained entity. All right, I think this quote from the journal posted in the module talks a lot about the second part of the question and how can we use intersectionality in science. And that's a tough question, and it could be answered through scholarships towards women of color, things like that. But I think a better idea, which was stated in the quote that I just showed you guys, is that intersectionality is a frame of mind, and it's an analysis, and it is an always in motion, in moving progress that should be applied to every single workforce. It's a study that should be carried on, should be implemented, and should be taught about. And that's the only way that we as people can say their names and get it in our head that these people matter and that we cannot segregate and be sexist or racist towards anybody, no matter their gender, race, religion, or color. All right, you guys, now on to the last part of the question, which is how we can use intersectionality as a way to see disparities in technology. All right, you guys, so technology. How can we use intersectionality in technology? Help find the disparities and whatnot. So I was going over the PowerPoint that is in the modules, and I see that there are many disparities in freed women and sexual harassment. And I think this is where technology comes in. I think we do a horrible job in our tech industry of objectifying women, especially women of color or nationality or transphobia and homophobia. All of those are just widespread in technology and in the media. And there's even stereotypes as we talked about in lesson before, and how the stereotypes of tech is usually like a geeky male nerd. There's not a lot of women in the tech industry, and like I said before, I think scholarships for the tech industry would be fantastic, and that would be a great way to help mandate how we get more women of color and race and gender and all of that into our workforce, especially in technology, because women are just as smart as men are. All right, you guys, thank you for coming to my Joey talk and letting me lecture you for a little bit. And I just want to make one last closing mark in regards to the question, how can we use intersectionality to help the disparities between in technology and science? We need to think. We need to use this as a lens to look through. We need to always see that some people may be in the middle of the road, maybe in the fork of the road, but we need to look at all of the traffic coming through and all the procedures, and we need to make sure that we are not discriminating people from employment because of race, gender, color, sexual orientation, religion. It doesn't matter. We just all need to look out for one another, and we all need to adopt that mindset as we continue with our lives as employees and employers. Thank you so much, Joey Sullivan. Peace out.